Namaste and good morning to all of you. Let's start the class with the prayers. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhuvaswaha, Tatsavitra Varenayam, Vargo Devasya Dhimahi, Dhiyo Yo Naha Prachodayat. Asto ma satgamya, tamso ma jyotirgamya, mrityorma amritam gamya. Om sehna vavatu, sehna bhunaktu, saviryam karvavahi, tejasvi navadhitamastu, ma vidvishavahi. Om shanti, shanti, shanti. Om. Last Wednesday, we started looking into these 5 verses, which are called Sadhana Panchakam. And these are the verses I told you written by Adi Shankaracharya. Different steps for the sadhana. So each verse has 8 steps. So altogether 40 steps on this ladder of sadhana. So I think we went through the first 5 steps. So that means half of the first verse. So let me give you the word meaning, which we didn't last week because I thought you don't have the verses with you, but today I think most of you have the verses printed out. So let me give you the word meaning of the first verse. So first word is Vedaha. You're all familiar with that. Nityam, daily. Adhyetam, study. Tad uditmam, ordained by them. Karam, karmas or duties. Swa anushchayatam, perform diligently. Ten, by all those duties, all those actions. Ishasya vidhyetam, dedicate unto the Lord. Apachitihi, worship. Kamye matihi, all the desires in the mind. Tyajyatam, renounce. Pap ogha, the hordes of sins. Paridhuyatam, wash away. Bhav sukhe, in the pleasures of sense objects. This is sansar, bhav sukha. Doshaha, pain, flaws, fault. Anusandhyatam, recognize. Atmechaha, seek the self. Vyavasyatam, endeavor with consistency. Nij griha aturnam, from the bondage of home. We nirgatam, escape. So as I said earlier, there are 8 instructions or 8 steps on this ladder, and the total ladder has 40 steps. So this verse number 1 has 8. And we talked about step number 1, study the Vedas daily. Okay, so some kind of a scripture should be studied. This is also called Swadhyaya, because that's where we get the instructions, how to live this life. And we talked about last time different karams, different yagyas. Then the second step is perform diligently your duties ordained by the Vedas. And Vedas talk about very clearly, according to the stage in life, what our duties are. There are different duties for a brahmachari when you are in the school age, different duties for a householder, grihasti, different duties when we retire, vanprasthi, and different duties when we are sannyasi. These are the 4 stages in life. So we got to learn, we got to know by studying the Vedas, what are my duties? Am I doing my duties or am I just wasting my time? It was so pleasing this morning. I got a call from this young lady. I performed her wedding last year on 19th of September. She called me. She said, my first anniversary is coming. Can you tell me what am I supposed to do? Young girl, thinking about what my duty is. Because most of the people, when the first anniversary comes, what do? Big party? Going away somewhere? Pleasing themselves? But she said, what am I supposed to do coming to the ashram? So these duties are mentioned clearly in our scriptures. But only if we open them, read them, understand them, then we'll know what to do and what not to do. So step number 2, perform diligently, not superficially, diligently, duties ordained by the scriptures, Vedas. Then we learned the step number 3, dedicate all the actions as worship of the Lord. Whatever action we are doing, it could be sleeping, eating, going to work, taking care of the children, taking care of the parents, watering the plants, doing the puja, the yajna, everything, all the duties as worship to the Lord, because we say God is everywhere. So all our actions got to become godly. Only then we will climb vertically up. Then we talked about step number 4. Let the desire prompted activities be given up. Desire prompted. Like my own selfishness, what will I gain out of it? Slowly we got to give it up. Because when we are doing our actions for Lord, then it should be for the happiness of Lord, not my happiness. So slowly we got to let go of our own happiness. This is the happiness which comes from the worldly pursuits. He's not talking about the real happiness, the joy and the bliss which we are. Because that we are no matter what. But when we think that by going somewhere, by achieving something, by doing something, I get happiness. He says, give up. Give up. Then number 5. Papogha paridhuyatam. Let the multitude of sins be uprooted. Uprooted. And I told you, sin is any action that violates dharma. Sin or pap means adharam. And adharam creates conflict, sense of guilt. And those are the obstacles. Those obstacles do not let us see who we are. So he says, uproot it. Because whenever there's a guilt in our mind, a hurt in our mind, a pain in our mind, we got to look deeply inside. What did I do wrong? And then analyze it, reflect upon it, and do something about it. All our likes and dislikes, anger, jealousy, greed, competition, they are all result of adharam. All our self-centeredness, all negative tendencies are result of adharam. If our life becomes life of duty, dharam, then negative tendencies will be slowly subdued. Only then we can deliberately act and do our duties. That's how we convert our greed into being generous. Instead of thinking that it's for me, when we donate, this belongs to everybody. By donating, by being charitable, our greed goes away. Because goodness is our true nature. And pap is that which inhibits our true nature. This pap does not allow our true nature of kindness, generosity, compassion, forgiveness to manifest. Because we know how good it feels when we help others. But we end up hurting others. Then we feel guilty. And that's how we create a wall. For being kind, forgiving, and compassion, all we need is ourselves. That's all. When we know who we are, this is who we are. Our real nature is forgiving. Our real nature is compassion. It is forgiving. So that's why we don't need anything else. We don't need somebody else's approval to be who we are. And as negative tendencies drop off, we will feel greater and greater joy, satisfaction in ourselves. Instead of having a reacting mind, we'll have a thinking mind. Because we should know our mind. Mind is a very powerful devata in us. Vedic seers, they called mind a devata, if we keep it pure. With the help of this devata, we can attain our ultimate goal. This is what Shankaracharya ji is telling us. Okay, so since we uprooted all those negative tendencies, then step number 6, bhava sukhe dosh anusandhyetam. Reflect upon the inherent limitations of worldly pleasures. Okay, limitation. Sure, it feels good to have a comfortable bed, comfortable temperature, but just getting soaked into it and not doing our duties, that's not the right thing to do. Feels good to eat something sweet, but how much to eat, when to eat, why to eat, we need to know. Because there is an inherent limitation in the worldly pleasures. We all know that. First piece of burfi, sure, very sweet, very nice. But if we keep on eating it, we'll have a stomachache or even a guilt. Sure, bed is very warm and very comfortable in the morning. Staying in it for a few more minutes, you feel good. But staying in it for extra half an hour, you have missed that opportunity where you could sit and meditate and talk to God or listen to God. Then you feel guilty. So that's why there is a limitation in the worldly pleasures. So see the defect in the worldly desires and pleasures. There's a defect in it. Until we see these defects in worldly desires, our priorities for life are not going to be appropriate. So we got to reflect upon it. That's why I said reflect upon anusandhyatam. We got to reflect upon these limitations. We don't question what is the true source of happiness. We really have a false conclusion about the worldly objects, worldly people, worldly situations. We think they make us happy. But if we reflect upon it, when we gain happiness, where did it really come from? This is reflection. before we gain the object, person or situation of our liking, we have a constant desire. I want it, I want it, I want it. Once we have it, whether it's an object or the person or the situation, sure, there's a happiness, but reflect upon it. Where is the happiness coming from? Happiness, that happiness we gain is because we are comfortable with ourselves at that moment. When there's no desire, there's no churning desire in our mind. So it's not because of the person or the object, it's because there's no churning in the mind. There's no halchal in the mind. So if we reflect upon it, we can recognize that this inert world cannot give us happiness. Happiness is already residing inside us. At the moment, when our desires are fulfilled, this sense of lack is temporarily suspended. So we are comfortable with ourselves, we accept ourselves, there's no self-rejection. Okay, so we got to pay attention to this. When we recognize that happiness is in the self, not in the object, then we realize the true source of happiness and also the defects, limitations, they are in the seeking the worldly pleasures or seeking the happiness in the worldly things. In fact, the desires which are fulfilled in our life, they are because of the punya karam. Without punya karam, we won't even get the objects, people of our liking. So be thankful when the desires are fulfilled, that I must have done some punya karam, that I have this. I can see things clearly. Okay. So number 7, Atmecha Vyavisitam. Entertain desire for knowing the self. Because behind all our desires, there's a desire for self. Atam Icha. We don't seek objects or people for their sake. We seek desires to gain ourselves. We want to know who we are. What we desire is self actually, Atam Icha. See, whatever is dear to me, because the self is dear to me. Self means the Atma. In Vrida Aryanak Upanishad, it said, Atmanastu kamyaha sarvam priyam bhavate. It means nothing is dear for its own sake. Whatever is dear to us is dear only for the sake of ourselves. That's why for one person, that is very dear. For the other person, it's not dear at all. So anything which is dear to us is for my own sake. So that's why he said, Atmicha Vyavisiyatam. So once we recognize all our desires for the desire for the self, then what happens is our primary desire is to know ourselves. Primary desire. Sure, there are secondary desires to take care of the body, to pay the bills, to have a good relationships. Those are all secondary. Primary is, I want to know myself, because everything around me gives me fulfillment from there. Generally, we don't accept ourselves because we have not looked into it. We feel inadequate. We feel insufficient because we have lots of wants. Lot of frictions in our mind, a lot of fluctuations in our mind. Because we identify ourselves with the body, mind, intellect, and we think that we are limited beings. And because of this false perception, we don't even like ourselves. Even though we are part of God, but we don't identify ourselves with that reality, the real thing, the essence, and we feel limited. But self, the pleased self, is our nature. Unhappy self is a wrong conclusion. When people say, I am an unhappy person, that is a wrong conclusion. Happiness is where limitless is. That is a happiness, limitless. And on the other hand, limitless is where happiness is. That's why we want more and more and more, bigger and fuller, because that's what we are. But problem is that we are identifying ourselves with this material world. We want a bigger bank account and a bigger diamond and a bigger house and a bigger this and bigger that. And when we see somebody else having bigger than us, then unhappiness. So we got to understand this properly. So when we have this is called vivek, the discrimination. Then desire for self-knowledge arises. I want to know who I am. If I am all happiness, all bliss, how come I don't know yet? So at this stage, desire for self-knowledge becomes firmer. This becomes your main job then. So far, you're just preparing yourself, learning what to do, how to do, seeing God, get rid of the negativities. But now you know that you want to know yourself. Then the last step on this first verse is Nij griha aturnam vi nirgetam. As soon as desire for self-knowledge arises, leave the house quickly. Let's look at it. What does it really mean? As soon as the desire for self-knowledge arises, one needs to leave the house quickly. Do not take it literally. I don't want you to just pack your bags and leave today. Okay? Leaving the house means to be free from attachments. That's what leaving the house means. Because attachment is an obstacle for gaining self-knowledge. So attachment with the house, it really means all the physical things. All the physical relationships also, attachment. As long as we are in the house, we are occupied with so many engagements and duties, and we are so attached to these preoccupations and the duties. And the me and mine has become so strong for us. To gain self-knowledge, need a mind that is free from all kinds of entanglements. And a life as simple as it can be. That's what it means. Or you can say that need to be free from emotional dependency. Because emotionally we are dependent upon people, upon things. Free from emotional dependency. Free from attachment to family members. Do the duties, but no attachment. Free from social obligations. We have only 24 hours a day. It's up to us where we're going to spend it. To please the society or do the sadhana. Choice is ours. We need to be like a guest. No sense of ownership. That's what leaving the house means. Like a trustee. When my own Guru Dev Ji asked me this question, I didn't know what he was doing or why was he asking me. But he asked me back in 1992, Is this your house? Do you consider this house yours? And I still don't know what made me say, no, I don't. And he converted our home into an ashram. No sense of ownership. This is fundamental for growth. So we need to be like a guest. It's not that we got to leave the house. No, you don't have to divorce anybody. Be in the relationship, but internally know that this is all temporary. Another thing, remember, giving up attachment does not mean stop caring. Giving up attachment means to stop depending on others for your happiness. That's what it really means. Because normally we just look for our happiness from the others. People also, situations also, events also, objects also. So remember that. Stop depending on anything external for happiness, because you are the source of happiness. So once we have the desire for self-knowledge, we need to make this pursuit a primary, topmost goal. That's what he's talking about. Okay. So these are the first 8 steps on this ladder. Anybody, any question? Because I'm going to start with the second verse today, if you don't have any question. Sangaha satsuhu. Sangha means companionship. Satsu. That means the men with wisdom. Sat sang. That's what it really means. Vidhyatam, seek. Bhagavato, to the Lord. Bhakti, devotion. Drida, firm. Adhyatam, be established. Shanti adi, that is virtues like shanti. Shanti means peace, peace of your mind, etc. Adi means etc. Parichayatam, cultivate. Dridtaram karmashuhu, desire-ridden actions. Santyajatam, remove. Sadvidwan, perfect master. Upsripyatam, like a shelter. Take a shelter under a wise person. Pratidinam, every day. Tad paduka sevyatam, serve his lotus feet. Brahm ekaksharam. Ekakshar is what? Om. Okay. Om is ekakshar. Om is not A-U and M. No. Om is only one akshar. Oh, that is ekakshar. And that is Brahm. It's immutable. Atharetam, worship. Shruti Shiro Vakyam. That means whatever is declared in the Upanishads. Shruti Shiro Vakyam. Samakarnetam, listen in depth. So 8 more instructions over here. So the very first one is Sangha Satsuhu Vidhyatam. Seek the company of wise. Because once you have established that this is what I need to do, this is what my primary endeavor is. See, almost like if somebody says, yes, I want to become a doctor, then they enroll into a proper school, get the proper education. Or if somebody wants to be an artist, a musician, they look for that kind of a master. And over here, he says that your goal is to become one with God, to know yourself. seek the company of a wise person. Seek the association of wise person, learned person, who is well versed in the scriptures. Be in the satsang. See, sang, sat suhu. Because being in the company of this kind of a person is conducive for our spiritual growth. Some people might say that if we cannot find this kind of a person, what can we do? Where can we go? If we cannot get the physical proximity of a wise person, we can always listen to their teachings. I mean, these days audio videos are available. We live in an era where information is in plenty, but then we have to decide what kind of information I need to put into my brain. Do I need to just watch all the movies, any movie which comes? Do I need to just keep on listening to the music? Do I need to just read every book? Be very careful what goes inside you. Sometimes it's very easy to put in, very hard to take it out. So that's why he says, Sang Satsu Vidyetam. So learn from the books, learn from the audio video, but still that cannot replace the physical proximity. In the physical proximity with the Guru, we are not only learning the knowledge, but we also see the devotion and see their life as an example. I still remember those days when I used to go to the ashram and stay a month at a time in the ashram with my Gurudev ji. How would he even eat, drink water, walk, talk to people, take care of himself, do the worship, do the pranam to his Guru? Books cannot explain that. Books are inert, but a living Guru is a life example for us. So that's why Adi Shankaracharya ji, he's saying, Sang Satsu Vidyetam. We need to learn how these saintly people are happy without any possessions. We think that possessions will give us happiness. I still remember when my Gurudev ji left his body, there was nothing to clean, nothing to give away, nothing to do, because there was nothing in his room. Few towels, a pair of sandals, handful of just kurtas, nothing to give away. Even the devotees, they said, can we have something of Guruji? Keepsake. There was nothing, hardly anything. But he was the happiest. We think by having something, we'll be happy. But when we see these saintly people are happy without anything, then it affects us. So we can see from the example how they lead a simple life and yet happy. That's why Adi Shankaracharya is saying, seek the company, sang. If we cannot find wise men around us, then we can be in the company of like-minded people. We can do that at least. That's also called a satsang. We can be in the company of people with the similar values. People who value knowledge, self-knowledge. People who are committed to their inner growth. You will see that effect of that also on you. Kind of a people we associate with is necessary to keep conducive environment. When we go to the temple, devotion is invoked. When we go to a restaurant, Hunger is invoked. So be careful where you go. Be careful how long you are staying in a certain place. As I was saying yesterday, to answer somebody's question, it's very important to protect yourself in the initial stages. Later on, when you are totally submerged in the God consciousness, then it will not matter. But right now, we are not there. It's just like if you are learning a new language, first you are very careful. Is my grammar correct or not? Am I making the sentence properly or not? Are the choice of words are okay or not? But later on, when you become competent, you can just speak. The same thing goes for a student of spirituality. When we keep the company of wise people, we are developing Shraddha also. Faith. Because this is a very important quality on this path, Shraddha. Worldly people, they'll put doubt in your mind. And doubt is a poison on the path of spirituality. So Shraddha. These people, the bhagats or the devotees or the like-minded people who want to grow also, they have a faith in the teacher. They have a faith for Ishwar. They have faith for the Shastra also, the scriptures. Otherwise, you will hear something against the scripture, against your teacher or against the Guru, God also. And you will start doubting your own progress. By seeking the company of like-minded people does not mean other people are bad. We should not judge them. It's just like other people, their commitments are different. And your commitment is towards the self. Keep that in mind. The spark in us for self-knowledge can be protected and made to grow into a flame in the company of wise person. It just grows. It's almost like in the fireplace, fire is burning. You can put another new log in there and that log could be wet also. But if you just keep it in the company of that burning log, the other log will start burning too soon. So that's why the company of wise is extremely important. Then the next step, step number 10. Bhagavato bhakti drida adhyetam. Cultivate steady devotion to the Lord. Because devotion is very important to gain knowledge. Bhakti. We just finished Narad Bhakti Sutra yesterday, and we saw that how important Naradji told us this bhakti is. Even Lord Krishna talks about so much in Bhagavad Gita. He says, with the bhakti, my bhagat can see me, can have me, and even enter into me. That's how important bhakti is. So when we perform all our actions as offering, we are already a devotee. Some people may think that bhakti is not required, but for self-knowledge, it is extremely important. Extremely. Because right now we could be part-time devotees, praying when we need something. We need to convert. If we really need to know ourselves, if self-knowledge is so important to us, then we need to convert this into a full-time devotion. Full-time. Remember God. Cultivate the love for God. But we need to perform some special actions also, which are conducive for our devotion. 2 times a day prayers. Remembering God's name by the jap, chintan, thinking about God. Just not only the name, but the thinking about God also. So apply all your faculties, because when we are doing puja, sometimes we are just doing only with the body. We go to the temple, bend down, body is doing it. But when we are saying God's name, we are using our vocal cords also. When we are doing the chintan, we are applying our mind also. So in that sense, I'm saying that do puja with the body, mind, and speech. Set a special time. Always think that God is there. I'm worshipping him. He is there. He's waiting for me. Do not make him wait. If you have decided that you will be doing puja at 8 o'clock in the morning or 8:30 in the morning, whatever time, or in the evening, the same way, do not let the God wait. You wait for him. Do not let the God wait. No matter who is in the house, no matter whose call, no matter what. That is very important if we want to reach where we are going fast. So if we are offering all actions as worship, some people say, why do we really need to do puja, jap, etc.? The reason for this is that here and there, our buttons get pushed. We may think that we are offering everything to God, but we are not. We forget it. This world has a knack of pushing our buttons. We know that. So if we just do these prayers, if we remember God's name, we stay on the path firmly. So this helps our mind to be centered on Lord. So don't take it lightly. It's very, very important for the sadhana. So make the devotion firm, have unswerving devotion to the Lord. To develop ourselves in the path of bhakti, we have seen Navada Bhakti. Those are the different ways we can increase our bhakti. Or according to Naradji, we saw the 11 ways we can do it. So just choose 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, whatever works for you. But idea is to increase your love for God. So in devotion, mind, intellect, and our whole personality gets integrated and purified. We gain a mind that is ready for self-knowledge. So that's why we do the puja. It purifies our mind. Sometimes we think we got to just only take a shower or wash hands and face. No. Sure, that is important too. But more than that, purification of the mind. Purification of the mind. So that's how this personality gets integrated. So we'll start next week with the step number 11. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vishishyate. Om Shanti 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 Om.